Even if your personal credit is, let's say, challenged, I never say anyone's credit is bad, because credit is really just a temporary snapshot of where you're currently at.
Welcome to the Property Power Play. I'm Kito J Johnson, your host, and it is right here that we empower you with the tools necessary to play the game of real estate and win. In today's episode, we're going to talk about commercial lending, asset-based lending, and syndication. I'm excited to sit down for this conversation with my friend and my brother, Kenneth Igwe. Kenneth, thank you for being here.
Kito, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. So let's start off. Just tell us a little bit about you and your company and who you are.
Sure. So my name is Kenneth Igwe. I'm the managing director for Baker Collins & Company. Very simply, we're a commercial lending group based here in Atlanta. We finance residential as well as commercial real estate projects all over the country with really a primary focus on the Southeast.
What is commercial lending? The debt-based funding arrangement between a business and a financial institution such as a bank. It is typically used to fund acquisitions, major capital expenditures, and/or cover operational costs that the company may otherwise be unable to afford.
For commercial lending as it relates to residential projects, things a conventional lender would need, such as tax returns, such as income verification, such as employment verification, those things aren't necessarily needed for us. What we do is we look at the project. If we believe that the project makes sense, then we'll take a look at other items such as the borrower's personal credit and things of that sort.
When you get started in real estate investing, your number one focus should not necessarily be what your credit looks like. Maybe you don't have the best credit. Maybe it needs some work. There's something we refer to as an asset-based loan.
So asset-based lending, essentially, the premise behind that is, hey, does the project make sense? If the project makes sense, we're not necessarily going to look at certain items. Technically, most lenders are still going to look at something about you. Some lenders are going to be more sensitive to the borrower's credit score. Some lenders are going to be sensitive to the borrower's liquidity position. They don't want a borrower to overextend themselves. Some lenders are going to be very sensitive to a borrower's credit. When asset-based lending, most folks will say, hey, look, the asset is the only thing you should pay attention to. But I take it a step further. Yes, we will look at the asset, and the asset is the most important thing. That's the item that's most heavily weighted when we go through underwriting. However, when you take asset-based lending, it really depends on who you're speaking to, which lender you're working with, which group that you're looking to get finance for.
How does somebody prepare to work with you?
So with lending, you can boil it down to literally, if we believe that the project makes sense, now we're going to take a look at the borrower's level of experience. We'll take a look at the borrower's liquidity position. We'll take a look at the borrower's credit. Those are the three biggest things that we're looking for, if we believe the project makes sense. As far as experience, many lenders these days, especially for renovation loans and new construction loans and some type of commercial lending, are really anal about someone's experience. Now, we will finance a new investor. Whether that investor they're just getting into it or whether they just started that as well. However, we're also going to take a look at things such as their liquidity position. That's a fancy way of saying how much cash can you provide or show. And with liquidity, we can look at a borrower's bank statements. We can look at their retirement accounts. We can take a look at they have a stock portfolio or a bond portfolio. We take the aggregate of those accounts, and that's how we will qualify them for kind of financing. In addition to, we'll take a look at what their personal credit score is. One of the biggest things that delineates us from a residential, or what I like to call a conventional lender, is that our debt typically does not appear on a person's credit report.
There's a lot on the internet and social media now about business credit.
Yeah.
Right? Forget your social security number, build business credit, and go out and buy real estate and cars and do everything in your business name. Can you speak to that? Because that lends one or causes one to consider that their social security doesn't matter, that their personal credit doesn't matter.
Your business credit doesn't necessarily have any effect towards a commercial loan. If you were to come to me and you would say, hey, look, I've got a great business credit, a paydex score, essentially it's like a credit score for your business credit. Unfortunately, that doesn't necessarily help us, nor does that, there's nothing that we can use for that. Those are two completely separate things. Business credit is designed for helping your business grow. Obviously, we are essentially commercial providers of debt. And so we will take a look at the project and make certain it makes sense. But the asset is what we place the most weight on. Most commercial lenders, as it relates to real estate investing, don't necessarily use your business credit. Now, I advise everyone to start the process of getting and gaining and obtaining business credit, because if you're an entrepreneur of any type, you are definitely going to need that in some form or fashion, but it doesn't necessarily benefit you when you're looking for kind of doing commercial loans,
Right.
as relates to real estate investing.
And how important is my personal credit? Do I need personal credit?
Even if your personal credit is, let's say, challenged, I never say anyone's credit is bad, because credit is really just a temporary snapshot of where you're currently at. So for me to say it's bad, it could be different in 6 months. So if you have, let's say, challenged credit, one of the beautiful things about getting a business purpose loan is you can actually work with partners, and those partners can be in the form of members of your entity. So another thing that we do is we can only lend to an entity. So the borrower will have to be some type of entity that you elect, whether it's an S Corp, a C corporation, an LLC, and then you can have multiple members of the said entity, and then one member may have great credit, another member may not necessarily have the best of credit.
So every investor has got to decide if they're going to be an active investor or a passive investor. An active investor is one that is involved in the day-to-day decision-making of a project. A passive investor is one that brings their resources to the table that then allows the active investor to run the project itself. Now, we refer to all of this typically as a syndication. So most people who invest in multifamily real estate do so through a syndication. It's the pooling of resources. So a syndicator, an active investor, will bring a project to the table and then allow other passive investors to bring cash to the table to see that deal come to fruition. The other thing that is important for a syndicator, the active investor, is to make sure that they have consistent deal flow. Deal flow refers to making sure that once one project comes to an end, that the next project is ready to be onboarded. It is making sure that there are consistent deals available for passive investors to invest in.
One of the things that is a challenge to, unfortunately, our community is the fact that we don't do this enough. We need to do this more often. I guarantee you the building that we're sitting in right now it was acquired through some type of syndication. You're pooling resources together. Someone may not have the capital to get into a deal, but they have a really good deal. They've got the strong credit. Bring that person into your group. Someone may have the experience, but they don't necessarily have the relationship you may have. That person can be brought into a group. And you can take the aggregate of individual skills and resources to keep buying properties. You want to be able to syndicate, and you want to bring people into your group, people who have these type of resources that allow you to keep buying more properties, so you don't stop. Many times when you're a singular real estate investor, you're limited because you don't have the down payment to obtain.
Right.
Getting the debt is simple. Debt is a function of checking boxes.
Right.
Credit, experience, liquidity, that's the simple part. The challenge is obtaining the equity. Equity, otherwise known as the down payment, the monies that you need to, maybe if it's a renovation project, the money that you're going to need to start the renovation, the monthly payments, those items. That's the challenge that a lot of us tend to have. And so if you want to syndicate to find the equity, and that's what allows you to really scale.
This has been a great conversation. Last thing I want to ask you is maybe about technology and innovation. How do you see that impacting how has it changed the game of real estate? What do you see going forward?
We're humongous with tech at our firm, and that's how we're able to kind of maneuver through these waters of tech. I love it. One of the things that a lot of real estate investors do, and I haven't seen more and more folks are being open to the idea of having something as simple as a CRM. So a CRM it's an acronym. It stands for Customer Relationship Management Software. With that type of software, you're able to really be able to see exactly where your deals are at in that stage, in the process. It just kind of lets you know where your deals are at in the pipeline. And so by kind of implementing things like CRMs and being able to utilize technologies like Zoom, and being able to kind of chat with people across the country. We have investor meetings through Zoom now and through Microsoft Teams meetings. We've got a number of appraisal management companies who will actually do valuations through video chat. And so they'll walk through properties. You must incorporate technology into your business, whether it's real estate investing, whether it's any other type of investing, because that's how you're able to compete with the people who are. In addition to you, not only your company, but you have to be able to explain that to your team. They have to understand what the purpose of it and the importance of it. It allows you to scale. You know, you've got automated, you have artificial intelligence now, where there's that is actually allowing you to kind of put things together as well. And so you have to stay at the forefront of technologies to be able to allow you to compete, because we compete with some very large firms. And it's the technology that allows us to be able to do so. So I encourage folks, if you are, for whatever reason, why you would be this way, against technology, I would highly recommend that you start to reconsider that. COVID, as awful as it was throughout for a lot of folks as far as a health thing, what it did for a lot of companies, what allowed us to really realize to capitalize on these technologies. Zoom calls shot up through the roof. Microsoft Teams calls shot up through the roof. And you had all these technology that allows you to really connect with people, because that's what technology is really designed to do. Yeah. It's designed to make you more efficient, and it's also designed to be able to allow you to connect with more folks. Yeah. That's what you should be doing as a real estate investor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, Kenneth, I remember when I met you the first time. I don't know if you remember this.
I do.
We were at the Empire Board of Real Estate, and it's interesting how a person's name and their business and their brand precedes them.
Yeah.
And I'd seen Baker Collins, Kenneth Igwe, and I remember being introduced to you that day. And I appreciate, I guess it's been 5 years ago now, but I appreciate who you are in this industry, who you are to our community, and for all that you do to help us grow our businesses and to scale our businesses.
No, thank you for that. I really appreciate that as well. And I do remember that first time we did Med, I was like, man, I know that guy. Yeah. I know that guy because I saw your email. I remember looking at your email signature on it, and somebody was like, oh, that's Kito. I got to go meet him. So I appreciate you for having me. It's always a pleasure discussing one of my favorite topics, commercial real estate financing. I love it. And it's just, again, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. The pleasure's been all mine.
Thank you.
You have been watching the Property Power Play. I'm Kito J Johnson, your host, and it is right here at the Property Power Play that we equip you with the tools necessary to grow your business and to play in the game of real estate and to win in the game of real estate. See you in the next episode.
The Convo, the two-time 2023 Telly Award-winning network, and your home for conversations around Black wealth, available on all platforms.